All right, let's get into the stock market technical analysis. We're going to look at the broad market, see what's going on. This morning we have rates coming in a little bit, and then therefore the market's rallying. And in the private member, I've been talking about how I was expecting a rally in the short term. So I'll talk through that and show you guys what I'm looking at. But so far that's been playing out. I want to start off today with the 10-year Treasury rates, TNX. And you can see we had like a double top basically. Rates basically had recently just barely popped over the high, and they're coming back in today. So I think rates can probably continue to fall a little bit down to this trend line support. We have this upward trend line right here. You can see that's three reactions validating that. So I think we're going to come back down to that trend line. That's support now, and then at that point, I believe rates will continue to rise, and then and then likely pressure will continue on the market. But in the short term, as rates, if they continue to fall down to that support, stocks, especially interest rate sensitive stocks, tech, things like that, should continue to rally a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. If that changes, obviously that will change the picture, but falling rates is bullish for stocks. Another way to look at interest rates is obviously the bonds, the TLT. This is your long bond, your 20 plus year. TLT basically, you can see we had on the daily chart here, we had this kind of downtrend line, and recently, well, today I guess, broke out. That is a breakout, so again, I am anticipating that bonds continue to rally a little bit and rates continue to come in. And then that should, again, be bullish for stocks. Let's go to the triple Qs. Here's triple Qs. Now, again, what I've been calling for is, for the short term, a short-term rally is triple Qs, is we basically have this, support line, and I was looking for a rally up to the resistance line. That's right here, all right? So that's kind of what I'm still anticipating is a push up to resistance. Right now in triple Qs, that's about 521.50. Of course, it depends on when it gets up there. But that's what I was really looking for, mostly because the hourly chart showed some bullish divergence. Let me drop down to the hourly. On the hourly chart, and this is specifically what I pointed out to the private member group with the chart, bullish divergence here. And we continued to kind of hit this support line right there. Did briefly undercut it, but they snapped it right back up. So that's bullish. And then yesterday we were just sitting right at support. So I continued to point that out, saying, guys, we're sitting right at support. We have bullish divergence. I think there's, in the short term, a good chance for a rally up to, right here. I'm at my first resistance, which is about 516.50, but I think we're going to push up a little higher. All right. Now, in the short term, and again, everything's kind of based on the time frame you're looking at. In the short term, if I go back to like TLT, I could see us coming down to some support, coming down a little lower. We don't have to, though. All right, that's the one thing. We did just experience a breakout today, but if it wants to pull in a little bit more down to about 86.13, you can see there's a little support shelf there. Then that's where the dip buyers will likely be buying this thing for the next move higher in TLT. If that happens, we continue to kind of come in a little bit on TLT, then triple Qs could come in a little bit more. We could see triple Qs come down to about 510.30 or so. I don't know if that's going to happen because that's really short term. In general, I'm still looking for higher prices there in triple Qs up to about 522. Flipping over to the daily though, because that's the hourly, I want to show you guys something, and then we'll go to the weekly. Okay, on the daily, if we rally up, that is resistance. That's downtrend line resistance. If we pop that, then I could see a complete backtest of this wedge. This is the bigger pattern, the bearish rising wedge pattern. We have broken that pattern, so we should continue to the measured target, which is the widest part of the wedge. All right, you take it at the point of the breakdown, which, I think happened here, somewhere right in there. It still sets us up for a move down to about 466, but the 200-day SMA is right down there at 476, so I would just target that. So that is, you know, if you're like a swing trader or a trend trader, then I think we're heading down there in the coming weeks. However, we could backtest this wedge. All right, we might go like this. We could run up and do a backtest of the wedge right here, and that would be in a very objective short if it did rally up there. And then again, that major target, that would still set us up for a good size push down to the 200-day. All right, so that is a possibility. I don't know if that's going to play out. All I know is if we're up there, it's an objective short. Also, if we do trade up there, if I go to the weekly chart, I got to kind of continue to go out on time frames. On the weekly chart, we have a bearish engulfing candle. All right, it's right here. That's your bearish engulfing. That's a topping stick right there. So a back test of the wedge, we might just run up and kind of test the top of that bearish engulfing. Somewhere right in there, about 532.78 on the weekly. Now again, on the daily, you could be above it, intra-week. But by the end of the week, you really don't want to see a weekly close above that level. All right, and that would still mean that that bearish engulfing is a topping stick. So lots of possibilities that could play out. All we can do is kind of read the charts as it comes in. For now, I just go back down to the hourly chart. And for now, a move up to that downtrend line is really what I'm looking for. And then we'll kind of see where the bond, interest rates are at and kind of get a different read on the markets at that point. All right, moving on. So as interest rates look to be falling slightly, you got stocks like XHB. This is your home builder sector rallying up. Let me go over to the daily. Rallying up today right into the 200-day. All right, there it is. Rallied right to the 200-day simple moving average and so far has been rejected. I think it could chop around here for a little bit and maybe just test this a little bit more for a few days. But again, I think it's an objective short right in this area. I did point that out early this morning in the private member group that this looked like an objective short at the 200. Again, rallies into the 200 should get sold into. Now, if they recover the 200, then again, that would probably be where you'd want to cover if you're going to, if you're shorting right there. But otherwise, I think we're going to get rejected and head lower. And you see something like Toll Brothers, and when I look at that, this is on a sell signal. So rallies into resistance should get sold into. And if you go back and look at this one, it racks pretty good to the 200. You can see basically there's COVID, broke the 200, sold it down. Tested it, sold it down. Finally recovered the 200. Once it recovered, there's a test of it, they bought it. There's another test, they bought it. Then it broke and they sold it down, and then it recovered and they bought it and now it's broke. And so again, I'm looking for it to get sold for this to be sold into. Now again, you got to some of these things. This is gonna be very dependent on that TNX and that TLT. So you do want to watch that. If rates continue to drop, then these probably will continue to rally. Okay, the home builders are very interest rate sensitive, so keep that in mind. Gold. This is GDX Gold Miners. I would expect gold to have a pullback here. Falling interest rates are bearish for gold, and gold's still hanging up, kind of holding up, the gold miners at least. So we will definitely keep an eye on that. Here's gold futures. You can see here the futures continue to kind of tread water. Nothing super telling, but in general, I don't know how much I'd be bullish on gold here. Let me look at Newmont. That's kind of the largest one. The measured target for Newmont is the widest part of the wedge right here. And so I've got Newmont going up, probably going up to the 200, to be honest. So yeah, for me, it's kind of a hands off on that one. I'm just kind of, I don't want to short it, but I don't know if I want to be long with what looks like interest rates are going to be dropping. It doesn't seem to be very conducive for gold and gold stocks to rally. But just, want to point that out. Financials, XLF. Clearly a setup for divergence, but let me show you what I think is going to happen. On XLF, we've got this coming off October 2023. Support, third reaction. Validated the trend line for sure. And you can see here the momentum's down quite a bit. I think we could see financials continue to rally up to this trend line here. I've got 1, 2, 3 reactions. There's a fourth with a gap. There's another one. So I think we could rally up to that trend line, popping that former high right there, putting in a new high, and very likely being a divergent high that will get sold into. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm actually looking for financials, XLF, to rally another, from where we're at now, 3 to 4% basically. And then at that point, that's going to be a divergent high into resistance and very likely get sold into. So that's what I have there on financials. All right, NTR. This one I've talked about as an objective long. They did sell it down recently, but again, it's had bullish divergence on the daily chart for a while. It's been building and building and building, and it's been putting in this big bullish falling wedge pattern. All right, and as far as I can tell, that pattern has been broken and we have a full-on buy signal. All right, there it is right there. So from my perspective, it's buy the dip in this stock. It's just broken out and we should continue higher. The widest part of the wedge, from what I can tell, is about here. And that sets us up for a move up to, I've got it marked at $69. So another, let's see here. Another move of about 30% more upside in that one. So again, buyback or dips should be bought most likely in this one. If you go to the weekly chart, I'll show you guys it's a little more clear here. There's the weekly. Look, you've got really good support here on the weekly, right about there. It's about 44.10. And that was resistance. But then we came down to that and, basically hit that for a little while right through here, right at support. They undercut it just briefly, but they did put in bullish divergence on the weekly as they were testing that support. So very, very good, objective long area. And then you can see resistance. There's another reaction. There's another one, and there's your breakout on the weekly chart. All right. So provided that we close the week with this breakout, and it would have to sell off quite a bit from where we're at. I mean, that it would have to drop 7% just to kind of be down there on the weekly chart. And, I don't see it happening. So regardless, it's a breakout as of now. And if, come Friday, if the chart still looks like this, or if it builds on the gains, it's a definitive breakout. So I like this as a long. It's it's going to take a couple weeks, maybe months to get up to that target at 69, but it's a good long. This thing pays a dividend as well, so looks really good. And then the other one I like is MOS. Again, this is a weekly chart, but it's kind of the same chart. You've got bullish divergence building on this one. You have a bullish falling wedge. And this one has not broken out yet. If I roll in on the weekly, you can see it's right there at the 200-day. So far, they're rejecting it, and it's just being held right at that resistance. So we need to see a breakout from here in order to confirm a buy signal. I think we're going to get it, but, maybe that'll come on earnings, and maybe they're going to keep this within the wedge up until earnings. I think it's very likely after earnings, this thing looks like it will have broken out, but we'll see on that one. Good setup, not completely actionable yet since we are at resistance on that one. All right. Okay, and BlackRock. All right, this one is hitting resistance today on the gap up. So there's your daily chart, good support there. There's a sell signal and there's a back test of resistance. So that's an objective short right there. It could grind around up here for a little bit. I could see them doing that because I still think there's probably a little more upside in triple Qs and really just the markets. And if that's the case, then this one's probably going to backtest this for a few days, maybe a week, and then break down. But it is objective at current levels. for a short. And I would say a short down to the 200 would be the next move. So that's what I'd be looking at. You have some support at 962, but I think you get down there, maybe a hold, and then ultimately break down. Okay, that's really all I have. So if you guys are finding value, drop me a thumbs up. If you're interested in joining the private member group, getting additional market insights and trade setups, link in the description below, and I will catch you